Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Blue Monkey Forensics. In this video, we will be solving the iOS questions from the Magnet Virtual Summit 2023 Capture the Flag contest. But even if you didn't participate in the CTF, you can still learn some forensic knowledge from this video. From this section of the CTF, the participants will need to download the zipped image of an iPhone dump and then process it with whatever software tools they like to use. For this video, I'm going to be using only Linux and Mac-based tools, which are free or open source. For my Linux box, I'm running the Kane Forensics distro release number 12. This distro of Kane comes with tools that I used, including Autopsy, bulk extractor, the XF tool, FFmpeg, plist-util, db browser, and then other standard Linux utilities. I also used iLEAPP to process the image, but had to download that tool separately. Question number 1, a few too many. How many email accounts did the user own? Not counting the private relay, and you only get 2 attempts. So being the first question and only a 5-pointer, I thought this was a really tough question. So my first intuition was just to look at my autopsy results, which I processed prior to the CTF starting. And here in my CTF results, you can see I have 2 emails, Michael Borchardt at proton.me, and then Borchardt T. Michael 78 at gmail.com. So I put down 2 as the answer, and I was wrong. Then I looked at the results of bulk extractor, which gave me the address of mborchardt at pervalis.com, which was not parsed out from autopsy. And then it also gave me the Gmail address, which I already had. So now I have 3 email addresses. So I thought, okay, this is the answer. So I put in 3, and once again, I was wrong. Well, unfortunately, 2 strikes and I'm out for this question, so I moved on to the other questions. But then while I was looking at the other questions, like question number 2, about Chrome autofill, showed me the proton mail, which I already had. And then when I was looking at question number 3, I actually looked at using iLEAPP, and then iLEAPP actually gave me another email address of blueisth3best at icloud.com. So this was my 4th email address that I was able to find. So after the CTF closed, I was able to confirm with my friend Wing that in fact 4 was the correct answer that she got correctly. Question 2, autofill me in on the deets. Which email other than their own was autofilled in Chrome? So off I go looking for the Chrome app folder. So I cd into the root of the root image, and then from there I go into the private var mobile containers data application folder, do a list there, and there are all the apps are on this particular phone and its own particular subfolders. And I have to figure out which one is Chrome, so I just did a find command, find dash name of Chrome, and it showed me a whole bunch of results, and it looks like the folder that starts with 0B46 is the Chrome. So I cd'd into the 0B46/library/application support/Google/Chrome/default folder. So this is where Chrome keeps all of its databases. And if we take a look at here, the web data file is the one I want to look at. And so I use SQLite 3 to take a look at that particular database. I'm going to do a dot tables to list out all the tables. And I see that there's a autofill table. So I'm just going to select star from autofill and then look at all of the data in that particular table, which apparently is not that many. But here on the very bottom, we see that there is an email of tlouise@corvallis.com. So that's the answer. Question 3. 1 fish, 2 fish, blue fish, red fish. According to the user's emails account, what is his favorite color? So after question 1 and 2, and I guess even 3, where I saw a bunch of different email addresses, but I didn't see anything about colors. I started to look at other tools that I use to process the data. A really useful tool is iLEAPP from Alexis Brignoni. And looking at my iLEAPP report under the Discord account, I actually see the email named blueisthebest@icloud.com. So I guessed blue, which was correct. Question 4, Q-uestion. What Chinese networking site was related to LinkedIn? Well, I'm not really quite sure how to answer this question. I thought this was like a business thing. Maybe LinkedIn actually had a formal business relationship with some Chinese networking site, but I just didn't know what that was. So I decided to just hop into the LinkedIn app folder, just like before, because I don't know which folder it is. I'm just going to do a find .-name LinkedIn. And the file of interest is actually called LinkedIn. So I'm going to do a file command of it to take a look at what it is. And it tells us that it is an executable file. That's not really helpful. And then I thought I'd take a look at it using xxd just to see the hex dump. And that turned out to be not very helpful either. So then I just did a strings command of that file LinkedIn, and I piped that through sort -u for unique, and then pipe that through grep. And then I want to look for anything that started with the HTTP in the beginning of the line. And all the results come back, and just parsing through all the results, nothing seemed to make any sense until I get down here to the bottom of the file. And here I see something called qzone.qq.com. And just from experience, I know that one of the biggest Chinese social networking companies is called Tencent, and it's also known as QQ. And so from the clue of Q-uestion, I basically keyed in anything that has a letter Q in it. So I tried qq.com, that didn't work. And then I tried Qzone, which was the correct answer. Question 5, Chef Boyardee 2.0. What market did the owner see Chef Pasquale's tomato sauce? In this case, I went right to Mac OS because it's a lot easier to look at Apple-related files like these HEIC files. So a lot of systems actually don't even have browsers or viewers that can view these files, but it's native to Mac, so obviously they can do it. So I hopped around and looked at all the pictures, and one of them has the tomato sauce, right? It's image number 34. It actually shows a couple of the different jars of Chef Pasquale's tomato sauce. And then what I did, Command I for info on that particular picture. And here's the GPS information. So then I just copied and pasted this into Google Maps. And the coordinates looks like it's right here in this building. So I tried to put in, I think, the cheese shop first. That didn't work. And then the Marché Atwater is the correct answer. Question 6, staying stylish. What color shirt did the user choose to put on their Snapchat Bitmoji? Well, I'm actually not even sure what a Bitmoji is. So the first thing I did was go back to my command line and do a find of the term Bitmoji. And then it returned with a whole bunch of files, which I wasn't really quite sure what they are. So I redid the command again. And I added the -exec file operation after it, so at least they'll come back and tell me what kind of file it is. So as it comes back, we can see that the first file is a PNG image. So I basically opened that in the image viewer, and it's basically an icon of somebody in a green shirt. So that is what I put in as the answer, and it was correct. Question 7. Picking up steam. What server was the user interested in making? So remember, I was hopping around with iLEAPP, so I'm going to go back to iLEAPP again. And then as I was looking at the Discord messages, the third message here talks about a CSGO server. And then another way I did this was I looked at the category called BioMe user activity. And then since there's so much data there, I just searched for the word server. And then there's two entries that pop up here is CSGO and then Rust. So I believe I tried Rust first, which was incorrect. And then I tried CSGO, which was the correct answer. Question 8. Overlooking Excellence. What stadium was the user overlooking at Chameleon Hood Belvedere? Well, this sounds like another question that could be answered with pictures. So I went back to my Mac again. And then looking at the photos, I got to this one here, image number 23. If I zoom in for you, you can see in the picture guide here that it says Stade Olympique on it. So it was the stadium for the Winter Olympics. So that's the answer. Question 9. You're going to crush this one. What lighthearted game did the user spend the most time on? So for tracking screen time, I Google for the databases that track iOS screen time. And then an article from Magnet Forensics popped up and gave me the path. So essentially, I CD'd into private var, mobile, library, application support, com.apple.remote management td. And then in there, I basically used the DB browser to open up the file called rmadmin store-local.sqlite. Once I'm in here, I'm going to browse the data. And then I look at all the tables, and the table of interest is ZUSA get timed item. And then once in here, there is the column that's called Z total time in seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and sort on that. And then once I open up the browser window and shift things around properly, going down the list here, you can see that the first game is called Candy Crush Saga. Question 10. You are here. Which airline lounge was viewed? So once again, I thought this was a question for the pictures. So I looked at all the pictures and I did not see anything that obviously looked like an airport lounge. So then I went back and looked at the iLEAPP information, and under the biome user activity, if you search for the word lounge, you'll get a few entries for the Lufthansa lounge. Question 11. Out of this world. Which terms and conditions site on TikTok is named after a space formation? This is yet another question where I had no clue where to start. I just started with Googling TikTok and terms and conditions, and I didn't see anything obvious about, any words that are related to space. So then I decided to look for the app folder, right? And TikTok is basically owned by a company called ByteDance. So I did a find of the ByteDance. And so I see that it is under the folder 4F9E something, something, something. So basically, I CD into that folder, and then I do a find of all SQLite files. And because I'm looking for legal information, I basically did a -exec grep legal after that. And basically, it comes back with one file, right? This all storage/unify storage.sqlite. So I use DB browser to open that file to take a look at what's in there. And unfortunately, there isn't much data. It looks like most of the data is in these blobs, and these blobs look like they are p-lists. And I really didn't want to look at every single one of them individually. So I decided to just run strings on that database. And then I piped that through sort-u again for the uniqueness. And then once again, I grepped legal. And then as I saw all of the lines come up, this line here caught my eye because nebula is some kind of space formation. So I typed that in as a guess, and apparently that's the right answer. Question 12. Which way? Which cardinal direction was the user turning when driving towards Rheinfire? Well, once again, looking at the pictures and the videos, we can see here in image or video number 68 that the car actually turns towards this underpass, which has a sign on it that says Rheinfire. And so I, once again, on my Mac, use the info panel and grab the coordinates, put those in the Google Maps. And we can see here on the map that we're right here before this overpass. And so if we're looking at it this way, the car is mostly pointing south. So that's what I guessed. And thank goodness it was right, because in this particular question, there was only one guess available. Question 13, boosting into a new error. The user was trying to learn German through an application. What promotion featuring a rocket was most commonly shown to the user? So once again, I went back to iLEAPP, and then at the apps per screen, I recognized Duolingo as a pretty common app to learn languages. And so once again, I went back to the command line to look for the folder of the app. So I did a find for Duolingo. And so it came back with a whole bunch of files. And so without really knowing what I'm doing, I basically just try to look at every single file. So the first one was a plist file. So I basically used the plist utility to read in that particular file. I copy and pasted it, and does not look like anything of note here, anything about rockets. Look back here again at the second file, which is a JSON file. So I just VI that file. And once again, nothing noteworthy here. Then the third file was an MP4. So I used ffplay to play this particular file. And it looks like it's a commercial of some sort. And at some point, this guy's driving a vehicle that could be construed as a rocket. And they're selling the family plan. So I put in family plan, which was wrong. I put in Duolingo family plan, which was wrong. So I thought, all right, maybe this is not it, because it's not really a rocket. So then I looked at the fourth video, the fourth item, which was also a video. So I used ffplay to play that. And sure enough, immediately we see a rocket. So that got me excited. And so after watching through the entire ad, we see that it's for Super Duolingo, which is the answer. Question 14. As a river runs, at which location did the user travel the most meters according to Apple? And I guess you got to put in a city and a country. If it's meters according to Apple, that pretty much talks about the health database, which is under private var, mobile, library, health, and then health DB secure SQLite. So I opened that up in DB browser. And the tables of interest is the one that's quality samples, right? So this gives some raw numbers here, along with the data ID. And then the other table of interest is the samples table, which gives the start and end date of that particular sampling, and then also gives a data type. So one of the more important things I looked at is a paper by Sarah Edwards from a few years ago, but it's still applicable. She basically did a really good explanation of all these health data things. And so one of the key things I learned from there is that type number 8 measures distance in meters. So that's what I was interested in. So then I went over to the execute SQL tab over here to type in a actual SQL command, because I actually need to join these tables so I can actually figure out the dates and times, coordinating that with the distance and whatnot. So after I got this coordinated out, the results come back, and I see that the top result is 662 meters, and it was basically done on December 31st of 2022 between 1:35 p.m. and 1:45 p.m. So at this point, what I decided to do is go back to the picture gallery, right, in the DCIM folder. And here I'm going to use the XIF tool to take a look at the data for all the HEIC files. And what I'm looking for here is just date formats, and then the GPS location. So this looks at all of the pictures, which I don't really need. I just need a very selected one. But again, I'm looking for the date format, which is in year, month, day. And then the GPS is around, somewhere between the date and then the 7th line. So once again, I'm going to use the XF tool and look at all the HEIC files. But then this time I'm going to grep for 2022:12:31, right? That's a date we're interested in. And then use the dash capital A6 so that we see 6 lines after that date. And so here we see a GPS coordinate. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this into Google Maps. And unfortunately, one thing that I need to do is change the word degree into the actual symbol degree, because Google, I don't know why they don't understand the word degree. But once I got the symbols taken care of, that puts us in Eltville am Rhein in Germany. Question 15. Lo siento, señor. It is going to be a cold one. What weather front was warned to the user by YouTube? Well, so for this one, I went back to iLEAPP, and under the biome notifications, I searched for the word YouTube. And here are the titles of all the YouTube videos which were viewed. So as I scroll down the list, coming down here, here's one that talks about some weather, but doesn't seem to be the right answer. And so I try different combinations of this. And then once again, I look at the clue, and it's Lo siento, señor. So there's something has to be involving Spanish. So as I scroll to the second page, I do see a title that's in Spanish. So basically, I copy and paste that into Google Translate. And sure enough, it is talking about the Arctic front. So apparently, you can either put in the English translation, Arctic front, or you can put in the Spanish, Frente Artico. All right, so those are my methods for solving the iOS portion for the 2023 Magnet CTF. Hope that was useful to you. And because this one involved multiple different languages, I hope my pronunciations were not too horrible for those who speak those languages as their native language. For more videos on Capture the Flag walkthroughs, watch these videos here. Make sure you click on the blue monkey to subscribe. Thanks for your time and happy hunting.